Hi all. I expressed an opinion yesterday regarding one of Nakamura's exciting games. I covered both his King Indian games, and I gave credit for him for playing excitingly in his match against Ponomarev. And the World Championship candidates, by contrast, seemed to be a bit of a dull affair, and it culminated in a very quick draw, but it wasn't a Grandmaster agreed draw. Far from it. The position was full of tension. It could have been played out. And I want to ask you guys today a kind of nagging question which has been at the back of my mind. I mean, even when I'm playing Blitz, I'm wondering, I don't know, there's a kind of uneasiness about playing in an entertaining, blunderful style. I'm wondering, maybe it's computers in the future are going to scrutinise my games. Maybe they're going to be scrutinised by databases pretty soon with engine-equipped analysis, and people are going to have these stats by them, the number of blunders they made in a particular game or something. There's this kind of uneasiness I sometimes experience, and that uneasiness is also, reflected sometimes in decisions, for chessworld.net as a correspondence server. Decisions like, should there be online indicators to show if your opponent's online so you can play moves quickly on the off chance they would reply quickly. On the one hand, as chess as a game, I guess you would build that in, because if people want it, then give it. You're also treating your players as customers, so whatever the customer wants. Or do you take, the theoretical stance about correspondence chess being about research, and it should be completely irrelevant and independent of when the opponent is online when you play your move. And correspondence chess, you shouldn't have more than 20 games, otherwise it's casual, you're just playing a few seconds a move, and that's not what correspondence chess is about. So one commentator has successfully irritated me, and it's reached a climactic conclusion now, because in the previous video about Chessworld, he kind of implied, he thought chess was about deep research of positions and how he was wrong. Well, that's true. Correspondence chess like ICCF, it's a very niche market. There's not many people playing that. Much more people are playing on the casual correspondence servers. Now, casual by definition is a relaxing of rules, and if chess is a game to be enjoyed, then maybe the relaxing of rules is something to think about, and make it more of a spectator thing, make it more of an interest thing to the players. And if grandmasters agree quick draws, they're letting down, in a way, the spectators. They're letting down the organisers for organising the event. And worse than that, if it's not like a dead drawn position anyway, if there was full of tension in the position and there was a theoretical novelty, then why don't they play it out? Is chess a theoretical science, or is it a game? Now, this question just reverberates in different contexts, this kind of tension. Let's have a look at this Grischuk game anyway against Gelfand. So it was in round 3 this occurred. Queen's Gambit declined. Okay, standard stuff so far. Bishop G5, H6, bit of an imbalance. Bishop given way for knight. So if white usually does this, the C5 and E5 squares are usually more targets for the knights. White's trying to prove the superiority of the knights here, and the bishop hopefully isn't going to be that dangerous. So Queen B3, and now black resolved the central tension, taking on C4, and now played a rare move. I believe it's quite a rare move, G3. And okay, Grischuk, he was a sub, he wasn't like preparing for everyone, but there's no way he would have prepared for this. He wanted to have the surprise value with this move, I guess, but instead he was surprised now by Gelfand's next move, which seems kind of Benko Gambit-ish, and something I've played myself in just the last London Classic, a B5 surprise gambit. So it gives black some play, but these guys are grandmasters. Aren't there obligations, not just to themselves, but to their the spectators and to the organisers? And when I'm doing a correspondence chess server, let's take a different context. Am I meant to make it like traditional correspondence chess, forcing people to actually go and find their nearest letterbox and post each move individually? What would be the point of having the convenience of the internet? If you take correspondence chess to the extreme, you know, it was originally a major like niche, and you know, now it's a major form of play, you know, on the internet. When you treat something theoretically versus a game, there's a different set of requirements, you know, different audiences. You know, for games which are successful on TV, often it's visual attractiveness, you know, like snooker or darts or football. There's a visual interactiveness and attractiveness of many games, often involving balls, of course, like, you know, golf, tennis, football. All, you know, it's visual, it's interactive, it pleases spectators. It's not so much scientific. Although, of course, there's physics whenever a ball's involved. There's physics about ball direction. You're factoring in, you know, wind. You know, the golfers probably factor in many variables. So there's an element of science in it, but actually, it's also a game played out to spectators, played out by, you know, sponsors. Why would they sponsor events? Why would game annotators want to annotate games if they're very quick draws? And innovations, it's not as if it's hard to come up with a theoretical innovation in this era of engines. You know, anyone with Houdini I'm sure can come up with innovations, you know, theoretical innovations, which, you know, potentially they can later uncork. Funny enough, a strange thing happened yesterday. I watched Majnu's video about Bishop at Knight just to brush up on it, and it actually happened in the Blitz game later that evening. And my opponent just assumed I was trying to win on time, but it was like 5 moves away from mate. You know, I'd used this theoretical knowledge to great effect with the triangle method. But yeah, I mean, there's a theoretical basis for the game, and there's a theoretical basis for correspondence chess. But it's also just a game. So as a game, you know, you can sometimes be more relaxed and play, you know, in an entertaining way, or, you know, play out a game. Were the stakes that high? The other aspect of this, though, in this particular game context, is that they'll be heading towards quicker form of the game, like rapid or blitz, even on tie breaks. You know, do we really want games decided at this level of the World Championship candidates by blitz or rapid? No, probably not. So what happened next was b5. Is it really that shocking? Okay, b5 wasn't considered. Grischuk was obviously irritated by this. He discovers it's got a lot of merits, this move. Of course it's got a lot of merits. Without the dark square bishop here, you know, b2 is more vulnerable, so the b5 is more vulnerable. This g3 move, okay, it's on that diagonal, but it's not great on this diagonal if there's bishop pressure. So we're talking about semi-out and b-file pressure from a6 down to f1. It seems like an interesting gambit. Knight b5 will be walking into a pin with bishop a6, so the queen took it. If the queen doesn't take it, well, let's examine queen d3. Let's stick in, you know, Houdini. Maybe black's better, apparently. Knight e4 here, bishop e7. So what's happening here? Bishop a6. It's this diagonal which is being contested. So this is the problem. Black's kind of equal, but, you know, maybe this is playable for white if the queen can find a safe parking spot on e3. You know, maybe this is fine. But it's easy, of course, with an engine to like check it. So queen takes b5. He just took the pawn. He didn't want to allow b4. Is there anything stronger than b4? Maybe b4 is too committal. Maybe knight c6 or bishop b7. So let's say white continued with bishop g2. Now knight c6. Let's assume castling. Is that a disaster? b4, knight e4. Is that a disaster? d4 is weak. So something has to be done about d4 in this position. Say e3. I guess black can start to play energetically now. Knight e5. So this is starting to reveal the true horror of the situation, I guess, that the queen on d3 would be a bit of a problem. This would start to be clearly better for black, this kind of position. In fact, c5 here. What's going on here? Okay, so this would be trouble. Okay, so there's a lot of possibilities here for white to be in trouble. Knight takes b5. As I guessed, I think bishop a6 is a strong move. The engine's like verifying. I'm just verifying that. Queen b6. There'll be pressure there. So it's obvious that there's pressure for the pawn in the multitude of variations. And it's an interesting theoretical novelty. Why? I feel Gelfand let down the game as a game. As a theoretical science, he's presented, a novelty, which we can all discuss now and use, just in case anyone in this position plays G3. Okay, but it's not an out of this world move, B5. It's seen in similar settings, even a very hyper accelerated B5 in the Catalans. It's not an out of this world move. So anyway, he took the pawn, bishop G2, black lashed out energetically again with C5. After castles, he uses that B file now, rook B8, and instead of taking the pawn actually on B2, let's see, if you're taking the pawn on B2, then maybe black's it's backfiring a bit, the B file, because of this rook B1, the pressure's going. So even though he snapped up the pawn, white would probably be absolutely fine now without too much of an issue. So instead, Boris plays A5, just keeping the trump card of his pressure. Actually, he doesn't want the material as much as the pressure, and A5 is shielding the bishop, to go to A6, shielding away from the queen to pressurize this diagonal. And after D takes C5, here they agree to draw, and there has been some outrage about this for obvious reasons. Is chess a game or is it a theoretical science? Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.